Welcome to the Community Board for Police Accountability meeting. You must sign up in advance for public comment. Individuals can comment for 3 minutes unless otherwise stated. The OCPA employee preserves order. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your comments when your time is up, or interrupting others' comments or board discussion and deliberations will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once subject to ejection is subject to arrest or trespass. Additionally, the board may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. When providing your comments, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. If you're a lobbyist, identify the organization you represent. Next slide, please. And next slide. All right. The meeting is muted online, so I'm turning to our open signal folks. Hello, hello.
Sorry to interrupt, but folks online can't hear anybody in the room. Oh,
Yep,
thank
we're
you.
working on it. Thanks, Heidi. Is it okay? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody online that they can hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Kyle, if you're online, please start us off with roll call. Murtaza,
Murtaza Butler here.
Present.
Madeline Carroll here.
Sarah Citronbaum here.
Corinne Frechette is absent tonight, so Trish, you're next.
I'm here. This is Trish.
Skylar Halsey.
Terrence Hayes, are you online? Okay. Jillian Herrera is absent. Ash, you're next.
Ash Jimenez, present.
Peter Ross present.
Tita, you're next.
Tina Lane Howell, present.
Shelley Maddox is out this evening. Jesse, you're next.
Jesse Nielsen, present.
Tim O'Donnell's joining late. Tim Pitts, is your audio working now? And are you online? Oh, great. Tim O'Donnell, did you just join? Just 1 second, I'm checking the thing. I'm checking my phone. Okay, so neither of the Tims seem to be online at the moment. Tisha.
Natisha Pratt, present.
Dina Ross, present.
Attica Summerfield, present.
Benedict is here too.
Thank you, Benedict. Next slide, please.
Well, good evening, everyone. At this moment, we'll be moving forward to approve our agenda. My name is Erica Warren. I'll be helping to facilitate you through the discussion this evening. And next slide, please. All right. Our agenda for tonight was created by Murtaza, Dina, and Atticus. So thank you for your work. And so we will need action to approve our agenda with a board vote. Is there a discussion for proposed amendments to your agenda?
If there's no discussion, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right.
I'll take that back. Thank you so much. 610. Dina, Atticus. Murtaza.
Yes.
Justice.
Yes.
Madeline.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Trish.
Yes.
Skylar.
Yes.
Ash,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Tita,
Aye.
Shelley is not here. Sorry, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm still not seeing the Tim, so just Tim Tits, are you able to come off mute? I see you now.
Yes, and I'm a yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Tisha,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Atticus,
Yes.
Benedict. Benedict, was that his a yes?
That's a yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion is passed.
All right, thank you all. Next slide, please. All right, at this time, we will work to approve the consent agenda. Next slide. All right. So the schedule for the OCPA Director Recruitment. I'm sure you all have had an opportunity to review, but just for those who are joining, June 22nd and 23rd, the nominating committee will meet to review and recommend applicants to the CBPA. June 25th, the executive session is proposed to be held from 6 to 8 p.m. with a very short public meeting immediately following that from 8:15 to 8:30, where you all will review the nominating committee recommendations and decide which applicants should be moved forward and invited for interviews. And then the interview panels, round one, see those that first week of July, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Round two, the following week on the 13th and 14th. And round three on July 23rd. Next slide. All right. As well, a part of the consent agenda is to approve the schedule for the OCPA Director Recruitment. And that on July 23rd, the director applicants present on a predetermined topic instead of during the CBPA meeting. And then on July 29th, oh, wow, we are hearing some typing.
Somebody online might need to mute themselves.
Trish.
Somebody.
Guilty, sorry.
You are
I'll send my chat.
You're an excellent typer. Indeed. Thank you for that. So on July 29th, additional executive session for the CBPA to discuss the candidates, and then there'll be a public meeting to vote on the candidate to hire. All right, so at this time, maybe we'll pause if there's any discussion or proposed amendments to the consent agenda before we move forward. Thank you. It's difficult to see. Trish.
Yeah, I think I asked in the chat, do these meetings, is there a time? I mean, is it the 6 o'clock time?
Yeah, times will all be the same. And technically on consent agendas, there is no discussion or comments, but I figured I will ask this clarifying one since I apologize, I did not make that clear on the slides.
All right. Are we moving to vote on the consent agenda? Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Abstention? Excuse me.
Sorry, that's okay. It's new for everybody, so it's okay.
For the consent.
Yeah, consent agenda is no discussion. Murtaza,
Yes.
Justice,
Yes.
Madeline,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Trish,
Yes.
Skylar,
Yes.
Ash,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Tita,
Aye.
Jesse,
Yes.
Tim O'Donnell, are you on the meeting yet? Tim Pitts,
No.
Tisha,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Atticus,
Yes.
and Benedict.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is passed. I will work on getting you calendar invites for these new additions and changes.
Awesome, thank you. Next slide, moving forward, we will have an opportunity for public comment. Speakers will have up to 3 minutes. This comment section is for general comments, not necessarily tied to a specific agenda item. Did we have members who would sign up for public comment? All right, we have 2 that I see here. And so we'll ask you to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself. Again, you'll have 3 minutes. Mark.
Porras.
Porras.
And Mark is online.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Please unmute yourself.
Can I make a motion before we hear? This is Atticus. I'd just like to make a motion that we do not cut people off for their public comment and
So-
that we let them finish their thought.
Yep, your board established the rule that everybody on public comment has 3 minutes, and that if the 3 minutes run up, then people can finish their thought, but that's already a board decision.
Okay. Just making sure that's clear then.
Yep, thank you. Mark, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thanks. Mark Porras, he, him pronouns, a member of Portland Cop Watch. I heard at least one no vote on the consent agenda, so I just kind of want to point that out, and it would be pretty wonderful to understand why somebody would vote no on the consent agenda. And that the main thing on the consent agenda is this schedule, which, it was great to be able to see that right now, but the public had absolutely no ability to see that before this meeting. That would have been really nice. There's still questions in my mind about, I guess every candidate has to go through this nominating committee in order to become the director. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. There was another, for anybody who wasn't paying attention, there was another attempt today at City Council, an amendment to try to take some of this board's money. And thankfully that failed. So you have a lot of money to hopefully hire. I have no idea what the status is of this, but you have a lot of money that you could spend on consultants like the OIR group or some other independent organization. There's a 5-year backlog of critical incident reviews that needs to be done. You all could use some training, some help coming up with feedback on directives. And I guess that's all I'm going to say right now. Since there's a couple other opportunities to comment on the agenda. Thanks everybody for being here. I do appreciate everybody.
Thank you so much for your comment, Mark. We do have another public comment online from Matt Levine. Matt, are you available? Matt, if you are there, if you would unmute and proceed with your public comment. We're going to do just a quick check to make sure we aren't having technical difficulties. Give us just one more moment. Matt, are you available? Can you unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Indeed we can. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And I want to start by thanking y'all on the CBPA. Police accountability is a life and death matter, and I'm grateful to you for taking on the responsibility to protect people's lives and to hold police accountable for the deaths they cause. And for those who don't know me, my name is Matt Levine. I use he, him, his pronouns. I identify racially as white and ethnically as Ukrainian and Irish. I live and work in what are now known as North and Northeast Portland, but are actually traditional, rightful, occupied lands of Multnomah, Clackamas, Kalapuya peoples, and many different indigenous peoples of the Lower Columbia and Willamette rivers. I live and work in neighborhoods which, after being stolen from indigenous people through settler colonialism, first excluded Black people, then redlined Black people and communities in, then urban renewaled and gentrified Black families out again. I mention this context because this is the context for the efforts which eventually led to the DOJ settlement agreement, to ballot measure 26217, and to formalize police accountability in this city. And with this context in mind, and as somebody who lives in Portland, as somebody who cares about racial and social justice, who cares about the lives and well-being of BIPOC Portlanders, who cares about the lives and well-being of Portlanders with mental health issues and disabilities, I feel like I need to warn you. I need to warn you that in my experience and in my understanding of the situation, there's significant bias in the way y'all are treated by city council, by various employees of the city, by the last 2 mayors, and by the independent monitor. Many of these people in positions of power absolutely do not care about police accountability, despite the fact that 82% of Portlanders voted in favor of police accountability in 26217. The city seems to forget that this is the community board for police accountability, not the city government's board for protection of the police. I do not pretend that I can give you a thorough accounting of any of the details here in a 3-minute public testimony, but please know that I'm happy to provide those details to any members of the CBPA interested. I've been following this work very closely for 6 years. I've been a part of organizing, along with Charlie Michelle Westley, an event at the historic Alberta House supported by Justice Oregon for Black Lives on the recent history of struggles for police accountability in this city. And again, while I can't give much detail here, I can tell you the most important piece of advice I would have for y'all is please, please, please listen to Charlie Michelle Westley, to Joanne Hardesty, to Letha Winston, and Teresa Rayford. They are the 4 most important voices on police accountability in this city that I'm aware of. Thank you for your time.
That was well timed. Thank you so much. Appreciate you giving public comment. If we can, we'll move to the next slide. At this time, we'll begin our discussion around the board vote to hire independent counsel, and we will give an opportunity for public comment in regards to this specific agenda item. We do have 3 community members who have signed up to give testimony, and so we'll begin with Mark, who is online. And if you would unmute, Mark, this is your opportunity to give comment in regards to the vote to hire independent counsel.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Mark Porras, he, him pronouns, Portland Cop Watch. Yeah, I'm glad you all are getting independent counsel. I've only heard good things about the person you are planning on hiring. Just did want to point out that the firm that it's, I believe it's that Ms. Marston belongs to is the same one that Stephen Schuback, and you all probably know this, but it just should be on the record that the same PRH labor law firm is the one that's hired by the city to sit opposite the Portland Police Association during the negotiations on their collective bargaining agreement, which is going on right now. I've only heard good things about this firm, and I have no problem with that. It's just something that you all should keep in mind. It's a voice. It's you'll be getting advice from an organization that works in this space all the time. It's interesting that there's not another firm in town that potentially could have taken on this work. And yeah, I don't really have anything more to say, especially since I haven't seen any presentation or anything about this. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. We have another public commenter, Yume Delgado.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Yume Delgado. I'm here in my personal capacity, but I serve as chair of the Citizen Review Committee, and I'm a former member of the Police Accountability Commission, which employed Ms. Marston as independent counsel. And so I actually was planning on skipping this meeting, but as active confidence in Ms. Marston's counsel, I thought I would show up and speak in favor of her appointment. She gave us very good counsel on the Police Accountability Commission, and candidly, I wish that we had listened to more of it. She is also familiar with working with a quick timeline, and so I would encourage you to consult with her early and often to make use of that resource that's available to you, and to listen to what she has to say. I found her to be someone who gives very sober, thoughtful advice that is, realistic to the labor environment that you will find yourselves in. And I will just highlight, congratulations. It has been a year next week since you were appointed to the CBPA. It's been 5.5 years since the city voted for this work. And so I would encourage you to lean into the quick timelines component of that. As a reminder, right now the Citizen Review Committee, I think, has agreed to continue hearing cases until September of this year. I don't know how much longer we can guarantee that after that point in time, and a lot of what happens this summer will be relevant to, I think, the decisions that are being made. I will also highlight that currently the city is, I think, going to be facing a backlog of police review boards, and so it's important that my members stay and hear those cases, because right now the city is not hearing those cases because of retirements at PPB, is my understanding. So I had 2 cases, they both got canceled. So use the counsel that's available to you, and I would encourage you to work fast if you can, because I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to hold the existing system together. Thank you.
You may thank you for your comments. We do have one additional, Rochelle Silver.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle Silver. I'm a retired psychologist and a member of the Mental Health Alliance. I'll be quick. I just want to thank you all for following through and hiring independent legal counsel. As you know, it was one of my early recommendations, and other people in the community have also recommended that to you, and thank you so much for listening. I think you'll be very happy. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for your comments, Silver. All right, next slide, please. And to the next slide. At this time, we'll transition to the board discussion in regards to the proposal to hire independent counsel, Jenny Marston. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question, well, not really a question, a comment, more for my fellow board members. I'm wondering if anybody is feeling the same on putting out kind of like an RFP to see if anybody is interested in counsel for future work, so that we're not holding Jenny completely. I'm just, based off of the comments, and my feeling like her firm that she works with does have a contract with PPB. So for me, it's kind of a conflict, even though she's not directly working with it. So I'm just curious on why nobody else wants to participate in this work as an attorney.
Thank you. See a hand from Madeline and then from Ash.
Yeah, I think you corrected what you said, but I just wanted to make it clear that she doesn't have a contract with PPB, or the firm doesn't. It's with the city opposite PPB, and so they're actually, yeah, on the other side of the negotiations from PPB, just to be clear.
I would like to provide a little bit of clarification, if that's okay. Jenny Marston's firm is on the opposite side of PPA negotiations, so it's the union negotiations, not PPB.
Thank you, Kristen. Ash.
Yeah, I think that that's valid of, like, casting a wider net. I think for the interest of the board moving forward, I think independent counsel now, especially somebody who's tried and true and has done work with the CRC, the Police Review Committee that Jenny would be a great place to start. That doesn't mean both and, right? Like we can also open this up for like a larger search. But yeah, I agree. It would be nice to have had a few candidates, but I think Jenny's going to be great to get us started for sure.
Are there other comments from board members? Justice?
Yes, just quickly, I think we need to talk about limiting the scope and potential hours of the work here and what our expectations for her are. I know in our last, I'm not sure if I can disclose this, there was concerns, there's been conversations I've seen that have happened in the past related to, representing the board versus individuals and things of that nature. I just want to make sure that that's clear and specified in whatever our motion may be and what our expectations are and what we allow her to do as far as like hourly. How many hours are we going to allow her a month to be able to do it, to do the work, whatever it may be. I'm not sure how that was done in the past with other organizations, but I just think that's important.
Are you wanting a very specific contract right away? You have specific terms and conditions in mind already?
There's a couple things. I want to make sure that it's clear that she's representing the board as a whole, and individual board members can't just be reaching out to her to call her for advice related to, if they feel they're being targeted or something of that nature related to those issues. I want it to be clear that we give her an hours limit. So, we're not looking and, if we need to approve more things or do things of that nature, give her enough time to be able to do that, but not just have it be a blank check. And then I also, right now we're kind of in the infancy period. And so I think having scope of work related to, hey, we're working on bylaws, you're attending meetings, you're doing things of that nature would be helpful. And maybe that's part of our engagement letter when we actually sign on with her. Maybe that's that portion of it. But I think it's just important that we have a clear delineation of what she's going to be doing.
Thank you. Madeline, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. If you had specific things that you wanted to put into the record as far as this motion goes. I think we talked about potential hours limits, and I'm looking back into my notes to see if I wrote down exactly the times that we were considering. Does anyone have the notes specifically? Because we could add that to the motion, I assume.
Heidi has her hand raised, so maybe she can speak to some of this real quick, and then, yeah.
I don't have the actual hours. I just wanted to let you know that the contract is through the city attorney's office because code delegates the authority to enter into outside contracts with legal experts through our office. So we will hold the contract, but whatever terms and conditions you all include in a motion tonight to have in that contract is what I will include in that contract. But we do have a standard contract that comports with our city rules that we need to, like, people have to be registered with the city as a vendor and other things like that. But I just want to let you know, there's some things that'll already be in the contract because they're required to be, but this is the sort of what you're talking about. I consider the scope of work, and I will take notes, but please be sure that when you make a motion about hiring independent counsel, that you also tell me what should be within that scope of work. And so I've heard a few things so far, and just eventually, if you'll ensure that you vote on what you actually want in there, that would be great.
Madeline again.
Yeah, great. I agree with Justice that we need to make sure that the scope is representing the board as a whole and advising us as a board, as opposed to representing or advising individuals in their own specific separate capacity. Yeah.
Thank you. Other comments online or in the room in regards to this topic? Pete.
Do we have to outline the scope of work now, or do we have to agree that we want to hire her Because I think hiring her makes sense. We know that we want to do this. So that's something that I think we all agree that we want to do that. I think there's details that we need to define. So I just want to be clear on what's the line?
So to be clear, typically from my practice, and I'm an attorney, and so what I do is I have a broad scope when I put it in there, and so we can be representing the board in all capacities, advising them, whatever it may be. So you keep it super broad, but at least she understands what that scope is and understands that it's not individuals. It's not, if somebody called me out the blue, I have to answer questions related to these issues. It's the board as a whole, and then you limit it. So like, for example, I sent out engagement letters today, and the engagement related to representing somebody concerning the investigatory matter of an employee complaint. And so that was it. Nothing else outside of that am I going to be representing them on.
Can I respond? No, that makes sense. I mean, I think that we all agree on the broad parameters. I mean, representing the board, not individually. I think coming to the meetings for the foreseeable future, in person, is preferable rather than virtual. I think the bylaws, we know that's something that we discussed in our list of priorities of a meeting or two meetings ago. So, I mean, I think there's some very clear deliverables and some very clear parameters that we can establish. And to Ume's point, time is not our friend. So the faster we can move on this and get this rolling, I think the better off we're all going to be.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay.
I just want to make sure he got his question.
Indeed, Ash.
What was the hours that you had put forth, either Kristen or Heidi, of like a general, I think maybe it was 20 hours, if I remember correctly, for getting us at least a ballpark to get started with?
I suggested, I think, 25 to 30, and that was based on the discussion about 10 hours a month being too low.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yes, Madeline.
Great, so that would include coming to the full board meetings as well as subcommittee meetings once we start doing those meetings as well.
I think it would depend on how many subcommittee meetings you add. So I guess this would be a question for Heidi of how amendable the contract is. Because if you have one subcommittee, that would fit in that time. If you added 10 subcommittees, that likely won't fit the 30-hour scope or capacity cap. Right. But Heidi, how easy is the contract amendable for hours?
Can I just make a quick?
Oh, sure, of course.
I want to make a quick suggestion. What typically happens in these type of situations is you cap the limit at a certain amount, and you say, hey, without board approval, you're able to do these 30 hours, and then if you need additional hours at the next board meeting, you bring that up and say, hey, I need 30 more hours this month or whatever it may be, and that makes it easy so you don't have to be worried about amending the contract, because that's just a whole, and she'll get in that in a second, that's a whole different ball game, which takes some time.
Thanks, Justice. Heidi?
I was just going to say, so I can include in a contract that Ms. Marston would work up to 30 hours unless the board votes to allow for hours beyond that cap. And then I wouldn't, in answer to Madeline's question, I don't see that there would be a limit on the work, because the work will be to represent the CBPA in their mission as defined in charter and code, and to support them in all of their work. And so then all of your work will include your subcommittees, but you'll need to, and then you need to talk to Jenny about that, because I think she's aware of that you meet twice a week, two times a month. But as you add more meetings, then you'll just need to talk to her about her availability.
Thanks, Heidi. Dina?
So just reading some of the notes on the agenda, I think the reason that we ballparked between 25 and 30 hours a month was because some of the work we wanted included potential work on developing training for serialized communication, hosting that training, doing supportive work and developing bylaws with opportunities to review. And that's why, in addition to the public meetings, executive sessions, with all of that. That's why the ballpark was closer to 25 to 30 hours. So based on that, would people feel comfortable if maybe Pete made an amendment and a change to his amendment to add a ballpark instead of just making it a vote on to hire? Would it be better to just start with, let's hire Jenny, as well as this is the ballpark of capping the hours?
I'm happy to make that amendment. So,
And are we also including your verbiage in regards representation in the motion?
I did this last time and I don't think it was well received, but I'm going to do it again, which is I would like to see something written so we all agree, know exactly what we're talking about, because I think when we talk about it, we might have a different understanding.
That is fair.
I just need a second. Can we take a quick recess so I can make sure I'm working with Pete and Dina as the motion and the second to make sure I'm capturing things correctly? Okay, thanks. Just give us 5 minutes, please.
All right, thanks for your patience. We are getting ourselves technically so that you all can see the wording for the motion.
It is, I am sharing it, but I don't see it on the screen.
I can see it on my screen.
Great. What's happening? Oh,
It's fine, but.
yeah.
All right, it seems like we have the wording up and available for all to peruse. So I think we're at the point where, Pete, you're amending your motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend my previous motion to what is now being presented on the screen.
We need to read it out loud.
Motion is to, should I read this, or is it, okay. Motion is to hire Jenny Marston for 30 hours a month. If an extension is needed, that can be changed with a board vote. The scope of work will include training on serialized communication, supporting the creation of bylaws, and attending all CBPA meetings in person, and the agenda setting meetings remotely. Jenny will represent the entire board, not individuals. Until the CBPA leadership is determined, communication to Jenny will go through Kristen or the OCPA director once hired.
Her last name is spelled wrong. It's Marston.
Thanks.
Courtesy of Yume.
Thanks, Yume.
All right, so
Can I make one recommendation, and instead of using the word, if an extension is needed, have that be reflected as if an increase in hours is necessary?
thanks for the thumbs up. Madeline?
I'm just curious, the specificity around her coming in person to meetings. When was that? Does she have to come in person to our meetings, or is it okay if she comes online sometimes when that's more accessible to her? That's my question.
My thought process, and was at particularly the beginning, I think having her in person is going to be very helpful to have some fluid conversation, some back and forth. I think that's going to provide a lot more value added than being virtual.
Go ahead, Madeline.
Can we add the word ideally in person just to add a little bit of flexibility?
Yes.
Yes, or the word recommended, right? With this on the screen, I'm unable to see other board members in the online space. Is there other?
Atticus had their hand raised, and then I see it down now, but Atticus, did you want to say something?
It was just about the specificity of in-person versus not is good now.
Is there other thoughts, discussion in regards to the amendment of the motion? All right, is there a second to the motion?
I second it again.
All right.
Okay.
We'll take for a vote.
Murtaza?
Yes.
Justice?
Yes.
Madeline?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Trish?
Yes.
Skylar?
Yes.
Ash?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Tita?
Aye.
Jesse?
Yes.
Tim O'Donnell?
Yes.
Tim Pitts?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
Atticus?
Yes.
Benedict? Benedict? Motion is passed.
Wonderful, all right, well, did you have another comment, Pete?
I just had a comment. I just want to like congratulate all of us because this is the very first thing that we discussed on the very first meeting, I think. So go us. Just want to throw that out there.
Indeed, that was going to be my next comment. I feel like each time you all are moving forward and with the time that you all are mentioning, great work. Thank you. All right, let's move to the next slide. All right. This is an opportunity to discuss the NACOL conference and the proposal for attendance. And at the next slide, we do have an opportunity for public comment in regards to the NACOL conference.
Let's do the reading so that way folks know, like the slides, and then we can do the
Indeed. So
public comment.
Kristen is going to help us with this.
Thank you. So up to 10 members of the CBPA can attend the conference and not violate quorum. And so what the agenda setting team, well, let me ask the agenda setting team, would one of you like to speak on this before?
Would I just read the presentation? Or do you want me to add more context?
You can decide.
Okay, yeah, I can read over it. So yeah, up to 10 CBPA members can attend. It doesn't have to be 10, but that's the maximum that we can do without activating quorum. So members will attend either for 1 year or for 2 years, and the duration of attendance this first year will be based on the member's term limit, whether you were given 1, 2, or 3 years. Each year going forward, conference attendance will rotate 5 members to allow new and experienced members to always attend the conference together. The estimated cost per person is $3,500. This includes flight, lodging, per diem, conference registration, baggage fees, and transportation to and from the airport. So the total cost for 10 CBPA members to attend would be $35,000. And I'll let Kristen explain a little bit more about the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kind of plan there, because I liked your idea on that.
Sorry. So 7 members have terms for 1 year, 7 members have terms for 2 years, 7 members have terms for 3 years. The idea is to have the 1-term folks who are interested potentially fill those 5 slots for 1 year conference attendance. That way, those folks get an opportunity to attend. Then having the other 5 slots go to people who are 2 or 3 years attendance, knowing that they would also be able to attend next year and be the experienced crew for new members coming on. And so I recognize that we may have folks who maybe don't have, like maybe we only have a small handful of folks from 1 terms who would want to join NACOL conference. So it's not like a clear, we must have 5, but like from 1 year or 2 years, but this gives a separation and way to have people participate with these term limits as they are now.
Justice.
I had a question. Excuse me for not knowing this. So can people serve successive terms? I.e., can I be a 1 year term and then be reappointed for another 1 year?
Yes, if a member gets reappointed, it's a reappointment for 3 years. It's only this first year that we have the staggered terms. Going forward, new appointments and reappointments will be at 3 years. Next slide, please.
All right, yes, next slide. Dina, did you want to continue?
Sure, I'm happy to. So to determine the 10 CBPA members who will get to go to the NACOL conference this year, the agenda setting team developed the following proposals. My members will submit letters of interest to OCPA staff to post to the July 8th meeting website, and the submission would be due July 3rd, 2026, which gives us time to get the early bird pricing on the conference, so the budget could be a little bit less. And the letters of interest should include statement of interest, availability and capacity, and commitment to share out conference findings. And is there another slide about the conference
Yes.
findings? Okay.
Next slide.
So at the July 8th, wrong one. Okay. At the July 8th, 2026 meeting, members will discuss the letters of interest that were submitted. The board will vote on members who will participate in the NACOL conference, and CBPA members will work quickly with OCPA staff to fill out required forms to take advantage of the early bird registration fees. So the letters of interest will kind of determine who is interested, who can take time off of work, who's committed to actually giving that presentation, which will be in December. So there will be one meeting in between the presentation. So we'll have a normal meeting. Is that wrong?
As of right now, the board has no meetings in November because your second Wednesday falls on Veterans Day, your fourth Thursday falls on Thanksgiving. So the conference is from November 8th to the 12th. And so the next meeting in December would be the very next meeting after the conference is the presentation. So.
Oh, okay. I think I'm reading the agenda notes where it says this is the second meeting after the conference and the last for the calendar year of December 9th, 2026.
I apologize for...
Oh, no, that's okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so that is when the presentation would be due. So you're basically agreeing by submitting your letter of interest that you will dedicate yourself to being a part of this presentation and that you will take the findings and the learnings to the entire board and that you are a strong networker and able to make the most of your opportunity to go to this conference by networking with other folks and bringing back what you learned to the board.
Thank you, Dina. Sounds like an excellent opportunity. At this time, next slide, please. There is opportunity for public comment, and we do have one person who is online. And Mark, if you would unmute, you will have 3 minutes to give your thoughts in regards to attendance at the NACOL conference.
Yep. Hi, thanks, Mark Boris, he and Parnell's, Portland Cop Watch. Yeah, I was just trying to read through the public meetings law. I was kind of sad to see that you can't send more than 10 people, but I guess that's the rule. And I highly recommend that 10 people go to this thing. As far as I know, you're the only community board that actually has the ability, the responsibility to impose discipline on law enforcement officers in the country that I know of. There are others that can, and hopefully you'll come back from this conference and tell me that I'm wrong, but I know there are other boards that are able to compel, statements and stuff like that, but to actually impose discipline, it's a big responsibility. And so I hope that you all make some good connections and just learn from the folks that have just slightly less power than you all have. And I look forward to hearing about what you all learn about at the NACOL conference. I don't really have anything else to add. Thanks for making this topic available for public comment.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Mark. All right. Is there a motion before we head into discussion?
I'll make the motion so the board vote to approve the proposal that was given on sending. Does it have to be specific that we say that we're going to send 10 people, or does it just have to be sending people?
I think it's based on your recommendation.
Okay, so I would like to move forward with the recommendation that we provided.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
So great job on this proposal, everybody. My only recommendation related to it is that we don't do the 5 members based off the year related to those things, because we don't know who's going to submit and be willing to go. I think we kind of take that out. And actually, I'm a little leery of doing the 1 year folks, not because I don't think they're committed, and not because I don't think they would do a good job there. I'm concerned that unless we put something in there related to you anticipate or want to continue on the board, I think that's important because we don't want that knowledge to just go away. We want people that are actually going to be here and providing that knowledge to these folks and making sure that those connections endure.
Thank you for that, Ash.
Just to agree with Justice, I think that I would like to see those terms removed and have it a blanket 10 if that's the max we can send, because for me it's just so critical that we get as much education and support in this field as possible, and to use the funds that we have set aside for us.
Great. I want to make sure that I'm clear, so it's not in regards to whether or not.
I don't see the option to raise my hand.
My apologies.
Sorry.
Sarah?
Sorry to interrupt. I don't see an option to raise my hand. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right. As a person that's been appointed as a one-year person who would very much like to continue on the board, that's not up to us, that's up to City Council, and who would very much like to attend this conference. So I understand why you guys are hesitant that are appointed for 1 year. We didn't get to choose those terms. And I most of us, our hope is that they extend our terms or reappoint us.
Yeah, just to respond quick to what you're saying, it wasn't the intent that those folks would not be allowed to go or anything of that nature. It was that they would express intent to want to continue on to the board. I think all folks should be able to go, and as many as we can should be able to go, and it sounds like it's going to be 10, but just the idea that you have an intent to want to continue the work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think most of us that were appointed for 1 year, I mean, I can only speak for myself. My assumption is we wanted to be appointed for longer because it would suck to be appointed just for a year and do all the work to set up the office and never get to participate in it. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks, Sarah. Dina?
Yeah, I'm happy to remove the term part of this amendment or this proposal if other people feel that way. I want to get a couple more opinions. Does anyone feel like particularly passionate about having the kind of like divided of the terms, or does everyone agree that maybe we just have it be a blanket 10 people that can go and that everyone can just submit their letter of interest and we basically just go off of the letter of interest, and preferably if you only have 1 year, you explicitly express intent to continue on the board?
I'm seeing a thumbs up. Is there any discussion? Pete, did you want to share there?
I was just going to say Tim has got his hand up.
There's so little. Yes. And I also see
Yeah,
Atticus.
thanks, Pete. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, to be honest, finding 10 people that are super motivated and are interested in putting in the time is going to be a lot. So I think it should just be open to everybody.
Thanks for that. Atticus, I see your hand as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to mirror what Dina said about the slightly changing it to like have a blanket 10 people. I would like to see the full 10 people go, and like maybe with like a slight priority for like the 1 year appointed people with intent to continue. I don't know if those stipulations are possible to put into writing, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I'm happy to amend that proposal. Specifically, I think we just remove the part about the term. So we just remove the part that says that we have a specific amount of 1 and 3 year terms. I don't think I'm going to put specifically the stipulation that if you're a 1 year, you have to express intent, but I think it should definitely be heard by board members and it will be taken into consideration, I'm sure, when we vote on who gets to go. So just kind of putting that out there, but I won't include that like in the wording of the amendment unless people feel particularly passionate about that. But is that good enough for me to put as an amendment, or do I need to write it out? Or can we just go with the current proposal and just take that part out?
If you all are all right with it, I think it would be the motion and the just stating that you're striking that.
Okay, that sounds good.
I would like something in there that does mention that, if year 1 people express intent to continue and to attend and who feel strongly about it, that there is some weight given to that. I'm not saying it's required. I'm saying I do think it'd be nice to have that mentioned. That's my.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there others who have, as Dina asked, strong feeling in regards to that? Pete, then Madeline.
I don't want to overthink this, so part of me is wondering, do we know that there's a bunch of people who just can't go, right? So do we have a pool, is there legitimately 10 people who are available and willing to go at that time? Because if we say, that we know that there's 9 people who we know can't go, then that could influence the process a little bit. So I don't know if we want to take the time to answer that question, but it might influence what the process actually looks like.
Let's go to Madeline's question and then we can come back.
Yeah, I'd prefer to just strike that language and not add anything new to the proposal, just to keep things simple and to keep it open so that when we have the discussion about who would like to go and discuss the different applications to go, then we can do that openly without having any stipulations in the proposal itself.
I see a couple hands in the room, Tita, and then I'll go to Justice.
I don't know how you guys feel about just taking a simple poll for availability, like dates, PTO, just a basic sort of situation. Administrative would eliminate a lot of our basic questions and would be able to sort it out fairly quickly, just in my opinion. Not just hands, I'm talking a survey. Yeah. Over email.
Okay. Justice?
Yeah, I had a little concern about the process as well. We're still trying to build relationships here and formalize with people, and this is goes against our consensus model related to these issues, because we're going to be advocating against each other if we have more than 10 people. I don't know how that grows us, and I'm fine with that. I like adversarial things, so I'm an attorney, but I don't know that that necessarily helps what we're trying to do here. So to that point, I would like to at least, maybe we can hear from people if there are people that are interested or not interested in going, that may help our process here and save some angst that I have related to the process.
Okay, maybe just to save time, we just do a quick show of hands, and if online you're not able to raise your hand for some reason, maybe you can just put like a little emoji in the chat or like a little something in the chat, nothing too long, so that we just see who can attend, and the dates should be in the agenda, I believe, or maybe Kristen can go over the dates again. Then yeah, let's just do, maybe you raise your hand if you want to go, and then you don't if you don't want to go.
The dates of the conference are November 8th through November 12th. The due date right now to submit proposals so that they go on the website in time for the July 8th meeting is July 3rd. So those are the dates that I have for you.
So the request is right now for those online who have interest in attending to use their raise hand feature. And if your raise hand feature isn't working, you can try Control-Shift-K to raise your hand. Otherwise, give a thumbs up in the chat.
I'm going to throw the non-hands up, but I don't know that it's necessarily fair to say everyone right now on the spot should say, hey, can you do that? I like the proposal of doing a poll of some sort outside of the meeting space for availability. For example, I don't know if I'm available at that time, but would I be interested? Sure. My 2 cents.
Thank you for your comment. Skylar, was your hand raised for the poll or did you have a comment?
Both.
Okay.
I really struggle to make time to utilize the online functions, and I know that that's the way our world works, but just with my home life and work, I'm just not able to access this email as often as I would like. And so as much as possible, getting business done in the meeting is ideal rather than more and more polls.
That's fair. Pete, I saw your hand, and then I'll go to Atticus if that's a question. Okay. All right. Atticus, I saw your hand go down. Was that in relationship, your hand raised to the poll or for a comment?
Poll.
Okay.
I don't think we did the poll in person because we were just talking about online. So should we just do like a formal, like, okay, like you do it now?
Yes, we should do that.
Okay. Okay. So I think for the people in person, raise your hand. And this is just informal. We can also do a poll. It's just multiple people are saying, let's also do one right now before we vote. So that's why I'm just following up on that.
Sure.
So maybe now people raise their hand in person if you, as of right now, can go and would like to. And now online too.
I thought that I saw.
I can't raise my hand and I'm putting stuff in the chat. Sorry, I'm doing this from the app on my phone, so the app on the phone doesn't have options of raising hand.
No worries.
We've got you, Sarah.
For the record, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so based on my count, it does look like there are more than 10 people who are interested, and that's really all that I wanted to know. So now we can go back to the motion, and if people don't have anything to say, then we can vote on it.
Were there any more comments? I wanted to make sure that we're clear. Justice?
I'm still confused how we're going to choose. I haven't heard that delineated.
It says it in the plan that there will be a due date for statements of interest and what those should include. And then there is a date for a meeting where we will go over those, I believe in a public meeting, and we will vote on who should go.
So let's talk about that vote, because that's what I mean. I don't understand. If we have 10 people that want to go, are we voting each person individually? What order are they going to? What things are going to rank for priority related to these things? How are these things going to work related to that stuff? Are we giving presentations related to our statement of interest? Are we discussing each person individually related to the person sitting there? That's what I mean by like the mechanism of the voting and how that's going to work. Are we putting a slate of 10? Are we putting a slate of 5? Are we only picking these amount of folks? I know that you read off and you read what you put into the agenda, and that's perfectly fine, but the mechanism, how that actually was going to work is what I'm still not getting in my head. Do you have more knowledge or more information related to that?
I think what's in the proposal is all that we like specifically talked about in our agenda setting meeting, but we can talk a little bit more about like what that would specifically look like in terms of the voting. And I'll also say Benedict can't raise his hand but wants to speak too.
Yes, I see several hands. Atticus, Tim,
Jesse.
Yes, Jesse. So let's start with Benedict, and then I'll go to Tim O'Donnell, and then to Jesse.
Hey, thanks. I mean, I think that has something to do with whether you logged in as city employee or not in Teams, whether you have the raise hand function, but that's just a guess. I think it was Justice who was asking about consensus and how they do this vote. I doubt anybody's intention to want to participate in the conference. And to me, it feels like a little bit of wasted effort for people to write statements. So I guess my suggestion would be leave the process as is, but instead of having a vote to determine who goes. If there's 10 applicants or less, they can all go. If there's more than 10 applicants, we just use a lot to randomly decide who gets to go. And that kind of removes the part of where we have to judge each other. So I don't know whether Dina is open to that amendment, but if there's others who think this is a good idea, I would make a motion to amend it. But if there's not, then I'm fine with the motion how it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tim O'Donnell? We are having a hard time hearing you. You sound muffled.
What was that, sorry?
Sarah, it's okay. Give us just a moment. Tim, I wanted to make sure that we heard your comment.
That was from the poll. I apologize. It doesn't go down automatically on the app.
Okay. All right, and then I'm going to go to Jesse, and then Sarah, I'll go to you.
Thank you. I guess I wanted to echo Benedict and I had a very similar thought at the same time. I agree with Justice's concerns. I think there's a good chance that we spend way more time figuring this out than is probably necessary. I don't think there's any reason for anybody here to doubt why anybody would be interested in attending. If there are more than 10 people, we should just have them selected randomly. I don't think we need to spend more time on it than that. As long as people are willing to commit to go and to report back, I don't think that we need to ask for more than that. So I would be in favor in streamlining the process as Benedict articulated.
So am I understanding you're saying not writing a statement? Is that also a part of the amendment to the motion that you're suggesting?
I would suggest that would not be necessary. I don't know if others feel that way. I wasn't sure if Benedict meant that, but I don't think that's necessary personally, especially if we're not needing to kind of make the case in a meeting and voting on that.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. My amendment would be people just submit their name and state in that email to Kristen or whatever that they're committed to going and participating in a presentation on it.
Thank you. Skylar, I see your hand raised.
I just wanted to add that I think that the lottery idea is a good one. Also, there seems to be a lot of folks in the chat that agree.
Yes, indeed. I see that note from Sarah.
Okay, well, I'm happy to make an amendment then if people agree on that, to just have it be a lottery, that if 10 or less people want to go, then those folks can go. And if more than 10 people want to go, we do just a random number generator or some kind of unbiased lottery. Does anyone second that?
I second.
I second it.
All right. Kristen, can you help us call the vote?
I would still ask that names or emails be sent by July 3rd. Can you say that, Dina, please?
Oh, yes, and that emails with interest to attend the conference be sent to Kristen by July 3rd, 2026.
Justice as a second.
Second.
Thank you. Murtaza.
Yes.
Justice.
Yes.
Madeline.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Trish. Oh, Trish had to leave, sorry. Skylar.
Yes.
Ash.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Tita.
Aye.
Jesse.
Yes.
Tim. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Thank you. Tim Pitts.
I am a yes. I had my hand raised online for a while
Oh, I'm
earlier
sorry.
still.
It didn't show on us for us. I apologize. Tisha.
Yes.
Dina.
Yes.
Atticus.
Yes.
Benedict.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Tim Pitts, did you want to say something else?
No, thanks. I'm good.
Okay. Apologies. It was not showing that your hand was raised.
Indeed, my apologies. We Okay, great.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, you all are moving along with decisions. We're going to move to the next slide. I don't know how far we will get into CBPA priorities, but next slide. Kristen, did you want to share?
Sure. So this was the 10 priorities that the agenda setting team from May 13th came up with, and that was Pete, Justice, and Trish. Next slide, please. Based on your discussion at that same meeting, there were 4 themes that emerged. The first one being community engagement and transparency, with some subheadings, board member learning, and some subheadings. Next slide, please. I'm only going through these fast because we have limited time. Board governance and board culture were the themes. In the room, we did a temperature check, and the top themes were learning from the ecosystem, bylaws, and board culture. It was also proposed that once the board defined their priorities, that I would do work on what needed to happen to help operationalize those priorities. So we need an official vote on what those priorities, top priorities will be. That's not a temperature check.
Madeline.
I'd like to suggest that we maybe brainstorm together things that could be included on a consent agenda list, things that maybe aren't deep priorities like what we're talking about here, things that are going to take time and several different meetings, but maybe things that we might have some consensus on already that we could give to the next agenda committee to consider putting onto the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Is there other thoughts, comments? Feverishly trying to watch online. Is there any comments from those in the virtual space? Not seeing any other strong feelings in regards to board priority discussion or moving it. Pete?
I'm sorry, I am
my apologies.
lost in what we're actually doing here, and I apologize. Is it we're voting to make a determination of which one of these 4 we're going to be as like our highest priority? And then, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure what you were asking there. So if y'all can explain that for me, I apologize.
I think what we're doing is deciding what we want to work on next as a group, and to use this discussion in order to help inform the agenda for the next meeting. And these are all really important, and they're high priorities, and they're things that definitely need to be included in the agenda and discussion and whatever our next steps are in our next meeting. And I was suggesting that there might be some small things, like, for example, voting to have some budget put towards food and or childcare for these meetings that could be included on a consent agenda list. And I don't know if that's something that would need more discussion, but as an example, if there are things that we think we might be able to create a pretty easy checklist around, then would be a good time to throw those things out to give that information to the next agenda committee.
Thank you. I do see a hand online from Skylar.
Yes, thank you. I think that a problem that we keep running into is that we haven't been able to develop relationship with one another, or at least I don't feel like I've been able to do that effectively. And so I wonder if in this upcoming meeting, we try to create a space in this very public forum to reintroduce ourselves to one another. And so to that end, I would volunteer to be on the planning of the next meeting, and perhaps we could focus on relationship building.
Thank you. Kristen?
I just want to really quick clarify that in the consent agenda, the next meeting's agenda was already determined, so July 25th, or June 25th, excuse me, is when you will hear about, it'll be mostly an executive session to hear about the candidates and decide who are coming for interviews. So the next agenda setting team will be working on the July 8th meeting. Okay.
Thank you for that. Atticus, I see your hand.
Hi, yeah. What Madeline said just made me remember that I did want to mention to everybody about the city council trying to have some of our budget for The first responder services, I just wanted to mention that we should, get to making a plan for using that budget up. Yeah.
Other discussion in the room, Pete?
Could you go back one slide, just so I can see 1 and 2?
Haley? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, what I think sometimes the simplest answer might be the best answer. I think if we picked one from each, from 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we all know these are all priorities. That's what I would do. I mean, if we're talking about identifying what our priorities are, that.
Justice?
So I had a strong preference that we talked about last time related to the rules and kind of getting our process set up. I think that's important because number one, we're bringing on independent counsel right now that can advise related to those things. Number two, provide us with structure, be able to move forward and effectuate some of the other things that we're trying to get done here. And then number three, will provide a framework that we can operate on as we're moving forward. And so that would be my preference, is to work on kind of those things. In addition to that, I do think we should get together as a group. I'm throwing this out there. I have spaces available if that's something that the group wants to do. So.
Dina?
Yes, please.
Yes, and just to respond to both what Skylar and Justice said, we did have a social yesterday and only 7 people attended, which was a little bit disappointing that not more people attended. I understand people are busy, but I hear people asking for more relationship building, but I don't see people attending the opportunities to come to the social. So maybe if the schedule doesn't work, people can come up with other schedules, or we can have more socials, but it would be great if more people would come to the socials if you want to build relationships.
Ash?
Yeah, responding to that, I absolutely want to come, but coming downtown from 133rd is pretty tough. So I would say it's something that's more centrally located would be great. So inner southeast, or something that folks from all neighborhoods can get to.
Other thoughts or comments? Tita?
I personally still want to focus on points 3 and 4, so that governance as well as board culture. Although training and transparency are obviously foundational, I don't question that those are absolutely necessary, but I would like to move forward with the latter. Thank you.
Do see a hand online from Skylar.
Yes, I've gotten the chance to attend a couple different socials, and I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. What I'm referring to in being vulnerable and engaging in this space would be to talk more about what we can't talk about in those social environments, getting to know each other in this way of the professionalism that we have to engage in. We can't talk about our opinions on this subject in a private fashion. So I would suggest that we talk about it in public and we get to know where our hearts are in this work.
Thank you for that. Other thoughts? I see Madeline and then Dina.
I think a lot of the things that we want to work on, having subcommittees to do that work in would help. Having, I know we've talked about this lots of times, but having a leadership structure so that we have hopefully a couple of people who are working with Kristen on a more consistent basis, so that she's not holding as much information and not able to provide that to all of us in a way that fits public meeting laws and all of that. It's complicated the way so we need to communicate right now, and having a leadership structure would help with that. So leadership, subcommittees, and then those subcommittees could be, for example, a relationships committee who could start to create more social possibilities for us, or help us make decisions about how we want to build relationships together, as one example.
Thank you for that. Dina, we are at 8:30, so this will be our last comment.
Okay, I will be quick then, but I want to say that both what Skylar is saying about having kind of socializing or building relationships in the public meetings is true, and I wonder if that could be more values-based, speaking about our values in this work and outside of this work as well. And as well as the socials are also important where we're not talking about board business to build those relationships so we can trust each other to have leadership. Because even after our social yesterday, a couple of us still kind of said, like, we need to get to know each other a little bit more before we still get to leadership. So on top of that, I would like to ask the agenda setting committee to please consider putting a consent agenda for funding for Kristen to book a place for us to meet, because that's why it was in downtown. We could not find a spot that was free, that was a private room anywhere else. So if you want it in Southeast, then we should create a budget so Kristen can book that, as well as we should put the food part and the childcare into the consent agenda as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to wrap up, Skylar, I have you down for the agenda setting committee. Tim O'Donnell, who volunteered this last time, wasn't able to do it, and so I've got him down for this list. And we still have a few other new folks who haven't done the agenda setting yet, so I'm looking to new folks. I know one person who is new gave interest, but I don't know if they realized it was for the July 8th meeting, so. Okay. I'm gonna just call it out. I'm gonna reach out to Shelley Maddox because she was interested in participating when it was June 25th. I'll see if she's interested in doing June or July 8th instead. Is there a person who, and then actually, sorry, Tim Pitts had said to me earlier if they wanted to be on the agenda setting team. So if we go to a second person for a second term, it'll be Tim Pitts. Is that? Yeah, but yeah. So I'm going to talk to Shelley first, and then we'll go there. Okay. Seeing thumbs up, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.